biggest one is obviously the new announcement of new commissioner Jessica Berman. And we actually got to speak with the new commissioner on Wednesday, and she chatted a little bit with us on Attacking Third about how impressed and excited she was with how many players were involved in the ongoing search for a new commissioner. For you yourself as NWSL Players Association president, what was your role within this player search committee for a new commissioner?
Yeah, my role was similar to the other players. I got the chance to interview the final candidates, 4 candidates that had been narrowed down in a very good process. We were also very aware of the process that had taken place before the search firm that kind of took this all on really was very transparent about how they went about, getting people, going through resumes, then narrowing down to 10, then narrowing down even further, and how they landed on these certain the candidates that we ended up being able to interview. So I was able to sit in. I think there were 7 players. Megan Burke also sat in, so there were 8 of us from the player side that got to meet and communicate, discuss with these candidates, and kind of ask them, get into the nitty gritty of some of the stuff that's really important to the players, and ask some hard questions. And I think players going forward are going to be vital to the growth of the league, and we did demand that we be a part of this commissioner search process last fall. NWSL agreed to that, and I think that they saw that it was super important for us to be a part of it, and they saw how I think how beneficial it can be when we all come together and take part in the decisions that are going to help the growth of the league.
Tori, you mentioned it, a search committee of 7 players: Brie Vasali, Crystal Dunn, Kaylee Collins, Jane Campbell, Nicole Barnhart, Emily Menges, yourself, and then Megan Burke, executive director of the PA. You got to ask those questions. So what were you as a group, what questions were you asking? What were you looking for in your commissioner?
It ranged from anything from like personality type questions, how do you deal with adversity? How do you deal with criticism? What would your best friend say about you? And then it went even as far as, what's the first thing you're going to do if you are named commissioner? And then I think also just trying to understand what their understanding is of a players association or a labor union, and what that relationship looks like, and how they're going to, which I think is one of the biggest roles of the commissioner, how they're going to bring everyone to the table and eventually find agreement. Even though we may disagree, we have to find the compromise, and trying to ask them and really, really dig into that, because that's been an issue in the past. There's a lack of trust there, like in other leagues as well. It's difficult for players to trust league and vice versa. And we're really trying to improve that, I think, and really asking those questions and how we can make those improvements moving forward.
Yeah, as Sandra mentioned, we did get a chance to speak with Jessica Berman about this. And one thing she was really passionate about was having those conversations, building that relationship. So ultimately, this group of players and this search committee, you're interviewing all these different players, and it comes down to it. And you picked Jessica Berman. So what is it about her that excites you to be the NWSL commissioner?
I think that her resume is super impressive. I think she has a different, I wouldn't say levels of experience, but she has experience in a big league like the NHL. And then she has what she has called multiple times to us in our discussions, experience with a challenger league. And I think she's aware that the NWSL may be a little bit ahead of the NLL as far as resources and visibility goes, but she has had to deal with a lack of resources and do really well there. And it sounds like from her experience and our own research that she's done a really great job being deputy commissioner there, that the NLL is really going to miss her not being a part of their league. And so I think that she can kind of marry those two together, and NWSL bring that experience together and really help, improve what needs to be improved in the NWSL. I think she'll have a good pulse on how to marry that, the different levels of resources and the different experiences that she's had on both sides, with a lot of resources with NHL and even her experience with the labor disputes in NHL, but then also a challenger league like the NLL.
As we're looking ahead a little bit to 2022, it really sort of feels a little bit like it might be this new chapter. I think that so many of us were waiting to sort of kind of turn the page on, right? There's now this announcement of a new league commissioner. The first ever CBA was ratified. There are now going to be 12 clubs in this league, and instead of 10 going through expansion. So for someone in your position, as you're sort of looking ahead to 2022 and maybe even beyond, if you like, what are you most excited for, whether it's in this upcoming year or in the near future for NWSL?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, am I allowed to say this, but it is about damn time. Like these things, it's been 10 years and I wish it had been done sooner, because when I look back and I think of some of the players who stopped playing because of a lack of resources and benefits and things that, the CBA will govern. I wish it had been done sooner so we could keep some of those players around. Now, things happen for a reason and we're at this point and we have to make the best of it. And I think we're doing that. There was so much tragedy last year that we really, I think, were able to voice what we felt was best going forward. And I think that has worked out very well so far, but there is a lot of work still to be done. And we're very well aware of that. This is not just a put out a statement and clean my hands of it or clean our hands of it. There is really hard work to be done, grassroots things that need to happen to stabilize, make a good foundation for this league that hasn't been there in the past. And I'm just happy that players are really, taking this responsibility on their shoulders.
Coming off of 2021, and we touched on it a little bit earlier in this episode, but there was almost a real fight at certain points to sort of feel like the players were trying to get their voices heard. And speaking earlier with Jessica Berman a little bit and speaking with you now, it sort of seems that the things that have sort of been coming up is that it's a mutual priority for both parties here to make sure that there's a good relationship between the league and its players, to continue to build those lines of communications in order to foster continued good relationships. Is there a point now where maybe looking at things laid out in front as you, whether it's yourself or your peers, where you're feeling like maybe now for the first time in a long time, voices are being taken into consideration and being heard?
I think so. I definitely think so. I think that might just come with, people that are in power positions are being very professional about how it is that they go about making some of these decisions, and making them in isolation hasn't worked in the past. Asking a player what her true experience is and what she would like to see, and then making the decision based on that is going to have an effect on that player, a positive effect. And I think you even get that is a way to build trust. I think trust is something that's always talked about, but it requires action. And I think that's what we're seeing. So not only are we taking part in these decisions, having taken part in those decisions is a direct effect of an improvement in trust, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, Tori. Thanks. I mean, you're letting us pick your brain so much on this, which has been your world and consumed you over, the last few weeks and months, but years almost, it seems like, as the president of the PA.